I feel conflicted in my marriage.
Before you go further, let's just say that it's enough to say, I feel conflicted. We're happy to talk about the subject, but that conflicting feeling is 2 points of view. It's what your inner being knows and what you're deciding to focus upon. If you can get that into focus, then everything else is faster. So let's talk about it.
My desire is to have a loving and intact family for me, for my husband, and for my 2 daughters. But my husband decided to move out for his mistress about 9 months ago. The mistress happened to be a divorce lawyer, so she pushed him into a legal action. He just served me with 6 subpoenas. I would like to rebuild our intact family for the well-being of my family members and also for my values. But I am somewhat in pain, but the pain is getting less and less thanks to you. So I'm wondering, does the universe have something else for me?
Big time. There are a number of things that we want to say to you, and we're going to say them quickly because you will receive it easily. Most significant is that we understand about the family and the values and the children and all of that. And we understand how desires from early years grow, and that expectation about how things should be is an important part of culture and desires too. But we also know that most people are missing the importance of the relationship with their inner being, and they are using other relationships to replace that. And often it isn't until something like this happens and you don't have the go-tos that you used to go to, whether they were real or imagined, for your stability, and you find your stability in the place that it always is, which is in concert and in alignment with your own inner being. Then what begins to happen is you gain a sense of who you are, and then as you are radiating out into the world, that sense of who you are is answered. Now, we usually don't go this far in acknowledgement and speaking, but we're going to do it here because it is such a strong understanding from what your inner being is observing and knowing. The path of least resistance to maintaining and encouraging who you are is in a different direction than with that person. But everything that you want, everything that you've stated that you feel so strong that in fact that relationship has caused you to put into your vortex, is for sure unfolding for you. Sometimes people talk to us about, but what about my children who now are subjected to things that I never wanted them to be? And we say, it's a lovely thing when children get to know 2 different vantage points, 2 different viewpoints, 2 different opportunities early in their life. This is a wonderful thing. And it also gives you the opportunity to help them to know the importance of their relationship with their own inner being, so that they're not counting on the fragile and frivolous human dynamics as their guide. You see what we're getting at? They can always count on their inner being, but they can't always count on you or their father, because sometimes mom and dad are under the influence of source, which makes them a very good source of guidance, and sometimes mom and dad aren't. And so we don't want to apply any right or wrong to any of this. We just want you to know that when you live life and you put into your vortex more than a particular relationship is going to offer you, that the universe finds a way to give you what you want around that. And so don't look at this as something that's being done to you. Look at this as something that is happening for you. Don't make an enemy out of his new relationship, because you don't understand that really. You're speculating about that. Instead, think about the cooperative components of the universe and that things are always working out for you. So this isn't something that's against you, it's something that is for you. And so as you go into this, whatever it is, knowing who you are and what you want from that relationship, ask for what is fair and ask for what you want. But really, do any of you really want to hold someone in a relationship to you who has decided that they want to be somewhere else? Do you want that? What you want is to feel something that you associate with that, which isn't about that, it's about something else.
I kind of suspected that's what you're going to tell me.
These are really wonderful times. Things are in motion in a strong way, and your stability matters a lot. And to stand in instability under these conditions is asking a lot of anyone, but you're already doing it and you will do it more. And so look forward to what's coming and don't spend any time pushing against what was, and feel thrilled with what the universe is offering to you in terms of opportunity. So much, really.
Thank you. I have some desire and vision, also talking to some friends facing similar issue, coming to the other side. Understand some guys will go through midlife crisis, and I feel that's what he is going through. I'm telling myself and telling my daughter, your daddy cannot think through at this moment, but he will at some point.
Here's a more accurate statement. Everyone is in the process of becoming, and sometimes relationships are part of that becoming, and sometimes a leaving of that relationship is part of that becoming, and another relationship is a part of that becoming, and none of us can stand still. We understand how that thought might give you some relief. Something that I want is going away and that feels awful, and the idea that it will come back feels better. But we want you to identify, feel the difference between relief, which that thought's a little bit of relief, and true satisfaction. And just for a little while, reach for satisfaction on a myriad of topics, but reach for satisfaction between you and your inner being so that you know what satisfaction feels like. You see, almost every time someone talks about a relationship, they just can't bear it if they hear anything other than it's really not over. And we never say a relationship is over because every relationship is eternal. But we also know what the path of least resistance is. When we say to you that your inner being knows where you stand and where everything you want is, and knows what the path of least resistance is for you to move to what you want, this is your path of least resistance to everything that you want. It really is. And so what you're going to discover is your own stability, your own independence for a while, and then you're going to understand your own capacity to attract what you really want. And this is an opportunity for you to just become familiar with what you really want.
It's there, right?
Absolutely. And we don't think that you've given very much thought to what you really want. We think you've been following in the footsteps of what somebody else wants, and that's part of the reason that you feel a little wobbly here. This is your opportunity to define who you are and what you want. And the universe is so eager to flesh it out for you.
Thank you. Following the path of least resistance, I get it. I have a 13-year-old daughter. What if one time, at some point, a 15-year-old boy is saying, let's follow the path of least resistance, have some fun. As a mother, what do I tell her?
Well,
especially, I was ready to buy 3 books of Sarah's series.
if she asks you that today,
I want to be prepared for it before she asks me.
but we have a very clever way of explaining this. If she asks you that today, tell her you can't give her the answer because you don't understand the path of least resistance. Because your question indicates that you don't understand what we mean by the path of least resistance. So now we're going to explain to you what we mean by the path of least resistance, and then you'll be prepared to know what to do. And the path of least resistance is being under the influence of source and feeling with great clarity which way to go. That's the path of least resistance. So first, you've got to yourself understand when you're under the influence of your own inner being and when you're under the influence of your anger about something. And once you've isolated what being under the influence really is, then you can demonstrate it through your example, because you can't demonstrate it through words. Demonstrate it through your example, that what it is like when you're tuned in and what you're like when you're not, and how eager you are to be tuned in and what you do about it when you're not. Let your children see that you care about satisfaction and that you always lean that way. Let them watch you live in grace and stability and confidence and clarity and love, even under difficult situations. Let them understand what true alignment is, and then you can help them understand that you're following the path of, we want to define, path of least resistance is also the path of most allowance, and the path of most allowance is alignment with source. So of course you don't want your children to be out with a bunch of rowdy people who want to do something and it sounds like fun and off they go. You want them to be stable in understanding who they are. You want them to have already identified and isolated within themselves what it feels like to be in alignment. You want them to have their true guidance within them. That's everything that we've been talking with you about since you've been here in this chair. You want to know, and you want them to know, what it feels like when you are tuned into that source energy, because then your thoughts come easily to you and you don't feel conflicted about what to do. The most disempowering moment in time that anyone lives is when you can't make up your mind about something, when you're conflicted or confused about something. That is so disempowering. But there's never a reason for that, because your inner being has already taken all of the data of all of your life, of all of your lives. Your inner being knows who you really are and knows what's active in your vibration, knows what you really want, knows who you really are, and is sending a signal about that that is indescribably powerful and is undeniable. And the only reason that anybody denies it is because they haven't practiced tuning themselves to what it is, so they don't know what it feels like. You want to teach your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, anyone who comes to you, you want to teach through the clarity of your example what it feels like to be under the influence of source. And what it feels like is confidence and love. And what it looks like is kindness and ease and power and clarity. It doesn't look like hate, and it doesn't look like insecurity, and it doesn't sound like it either, you see. And so once you give them that stability because you've got it, once you demonstrate it to them, then they'll know what to do, you see. You can't follow them around and give them rules. You can't give them rules to guide their behavior. It's such a wonderful thing. Most physical beings want to take the world as it exists, and they aren't talking like we are about being vibrational beings who are turning thoughts to things. Most people are looking at the things that have already turned out. They think that's reality. The relationships are the manifestations. The car in the garage is the manifestation. The money in the bank is the manifestation. So they want to just take those kinds of manifestations and sort them into piles. And so they say, all right, there's the Democratic pile and the Republican pile, and there's the white pile and the black pile and the female pile and the male pile and the straight pile and the gay pile. There's all these piles. And then they want to judge the piles from their framework of, I'm in the right pile and therefore you must be in the wrong pile. And you can imagine how many piles there are. There's the teenager pile and their parents pile. There's the employer pile and the employee pile. Lots of different people in lots of different piles with lots of different opinions about the same thing. We want to take all those piles and mix them all up. And then we want to sort them into two piles. Under the influence of source right now or not. And once you figure that out, then you realize there are all kinds of people that you relate to in all kinds of ways. They're in all kinds of different categories that others have put them in. But when you're under the influence, when you're really under the influence of who you are, then the cooperative components of the universe bring to you or to your aligned child those things that enhance their experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.